Welcome all. Thanks so much for joining us. During these interesting times, we would like to share some great discussions we are having with thought leaders and professionals, where we talk about the realities of remote and virtual work in a growing open talent market. We do deep dives in important topics, tackle some of the real challenges, and ask some of the hard questions. Hi, I'm Emma, the CEO of One Circle, the coolest freelance platform for HR consultants. We are cheerleaders of virtual remote work, and with every discussion, we hope we can make the journey of some of you towards virtual work more enjoyable. We know there are great content out there. We want ours to be easy to digest, to implement, and with depth of expertise. But as well, we want it to be fun. So today, joining me is Lori Shook. Lori is a professional coach, a master certified coach, trainer, speaker, and author. I hope I didn't forget anything. She coaches and trains leaders and teams. Lori, you combine neuroscience, personal development, and experiential learning, and in your words, to make learning stick. So can you please tell us about how do you do this? And what is the connection between neuroscience and learning?
Thanks, Emma. Those are big questions. Let me just say first, I'm really pleased to be here with you, and congratulations on your launch and what you're doing. One Circle, it's wonderful. I'm a big fan of remote working, so really pleased to be supporting you. So personal development, experiential learning, and neuroscience. Those three things, how do they intertwine? First of all, let me say that's learning. So it's all about learning ultimately, right? And how does somebody learn? Adult learning theory has been around for a long time and shows us that to learn something, we really need to practice it. What happens in the brain is we learn something, we need to build neural pathways. We need to solidify those. Solidify means do it, practice. So we learn that from the brain, that this is what we need to do. Mm-hmm. So how do we do that? Experiential learning is an avenue to getting there. Because if you just learn from a book, if you just learn by reading something and absorbing it and think, oh, I'm going to do this thing or try it, you're not likely to build those neural pathways. You actually need some kind of experience to get you started. Now, when I've done a lot of in-person work before the world went into lockdown, and we were always doing experiential things. Okay, we're learning coaching skills. Great, pair up, practice open-ended questions, practice these things. We get started in that environment then and there to start building those neural pathways. But that's not enough. People need to practice and keep going in order to really get there and really solidify learning. Now, where personal development comes into all of this is that if we really want to make a change, we do have to dig down a little bit. It is personal. It's our own brains that we're changing as we learn. People who are not willing to be touched personally have a harder time learning, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So with personal development, with developing coaching skills, for example, I've worked with a lot of leaders who are developing coaching skills, and some of them just want to learn how to coach so they can control their people. You know, that's a mindset and an internal attitude. And if they want to keep that attitude and aren't willing to look at it, the introspective personal learning of looking at what are my attitudes, they're not really going to be able to make the changes needed to learn those skills. So it touches us personally. We need to change some attitudes often in order to learn skills, especially soft skills and emotional intelligence type skills. So those feel like disparate things, but they all come together in one package. People need to be able to look at their own attitudes in order to learn. We need to practice in order to learn. And we know about this because we know what's in the brain and how the brain works in building these neural pathways. One other thing I want to say about neuroscience that I've become really clear about just from the study of neuroscience is how essential safety is.
Yes.
right? So if we're going to get vulnerable and learn about ourselves and dig in and do some personal shifts and attitude changes, it must be safe. Mm-hmm. And what creates safety for the brain is a lot fun actually helps. You said you want to have fun, so having some fun and smiles and positivity and reinforcement, positive reinforcement for corrections, as opposed to no, you're doing that wrong. If you're trying to learn under strict conditions, that actually tightens the brain and it doesn't help us learn. Mm-hmm. So neuroscience also tells us create a fun learning environment. I like to say happy brains learn better.
Yes, that's true.
Create an environment where it can be happy and fun and light and learn through play if possible. And then we're open to that personal development more because the brain is a little more relaxed, the brain and body more relaxed. Same thing for that practice bits. If we're tense and uptight in the experience that we've had for, in a learning environment, we're not going to go practice. We're not going to develop those neural pathways and really learn the skills that we want to, that are whoever wants us to learn or we want to learn ourselves.
Yeah.
Because there's just too much tension around it and fear. So there's a number of things that come together.
Yeah, and funny enough, you spoke about safety, and we, as part of that shift to having a remote managing or leading a remote team, is you need to ensure at any point in time that you are very much aware about the psychological safety of your people. That, yes. Because it's a change that is happening from their usual way of working to a completely new way of working and working remote. At any point in time, yes. You need to ensure that that is the psychological safety. But then again, I get that when we talk about experiential learning, etc. But how about when it's a remote team and you are leading a remote team and you want to yes. ensure that your people are learning, but at the same time, they are feeling safe? And how would you drive a behavioral change when it's a completely remote work relationship?
Yeah. So there's all that I described already, all these things coming together. And now we add remote, which is another layer on top. Yes. So we need to figure out how to create those experiences. I'll come back to the safety in a moment. But how do we create experiences? And I've been doing this a lot in these last couple of months. Over Zoom and even creating places where people learning coaching skills, right? Putting people, here's a demonstration, here's how you do this, go into a breakout room, practice, get some feedback. So it's still doable in a virtual setting. We just need to be able to find ways to do that. And I know we're going to come to social learning also, really important to involve other people. Somebody learning all on their own, in their own space, possibly being distracted by home and all of that kind of thing can be a bit challenging. But if you have other people that help them pay attention, it really, really helps. But back to safety is what you really asked about. So yes, safety and psychological safety. I think we need to get to know our people who comes to the learning event, or if you're talking about managers and their remote teams. I think especially now, managers really need to get to know their people. What's going on for them? How safe is their environment? How comfortable do they feel? And because it's stressful, this lockdown thing, and there's a big bad virus out there and there's stuff happening and it's very uncomfortable. Safety levels have really dropped. So how do we connect with people more, ask them to talk about what's going on, create a space for them to talk about what's going on, create more environments where teams can get together and have fun. I've heard of lots of fun different things that teams are doing, or having Tuesday morning coffee or Friday afternoon drinks together, whatever. They dress up in funny ways. It's just about creating social connection, because our brain is a social brain and we need that connection. So huge amount of safety is about that connection and safety and fun and lightness, and making sure that they're in a safe environment. Did that feel like it answered your question?
Yes, you did. So it's that journey that they go on from anxiety and fear to that next stage where they feel that it actually can work, and I'm okay, I'm comfortable, I can make it work. Then they start feeling that they are productive and they can focus. They get around, they know their routine, and then they get into that stage where I can actually deliver, I can perform, I can see growth, etc. And there's that peer learning element that you spoke about. So when we are sharing experiences in those virtually created environments, I would call them, it makes me feel more relaxed that you're going through what I'm going through. We're learning together. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. If we have challenges, let us discuss it. And at the same time, with the team leader or the team manager as well being part of those virtual informal discussions. But the only thing that it's funny because we get a lot of businesses that are asking us they do have their trainings and their learning programs, and they're asking us how would we take those learning and training programs and actually fit them for virtual remote learning. So and I know you work. This is one of the areas, your areas of expertise. So what would you do your tips to such businesses that think that they can just take whatever learning programs that they have, package them virtually, and then deliver them to remote teams?
Yeah, I think there's two important stages, and one of those was something I've been passionate about long before it was all about remote. And that is to turn your programs into experiential programs. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people still deliver programs as, here are some slides, here's some information to just open your brain and pile it in and pour it in as if that's going to create behavior change. It doesn't. So find a way to get people to try things, to practice things, to put it in their mind and chew on it and do something with it. So that's step one. And then step two is how do you bring people together and have people practice things while remote? If you're just going with slides, like a traditional classroom setting, and you've got slides and then you do that remotely, people are going to be multitasking and doing their email instead. We need to keep people engaged, not just so they don't do their email, but so that they learn.
Yes.
So first things first, create some experiences. What do you really want people to learn? If you're having a training, there's some kind of behavior that you want to change. That's usually the reason there's some kind of training. So what is that behavior? And how do you get people practicing that behavior immediately in a classroom setting, even if it's a remote setting? Is it about interactions between people? Great, put them in breakout rooms and have them practice that. Give them the tools and set them up for success so they can do that successfully, and have them do it then and there. Or have them, I know there's also remote and self-paced learning. We offer some self-paced learning. It's a whole other kettle of worms, if you will. Yes, people can learn on their own, but again, they need to be experiential. Great, here's a concept that you deliver in a video form or reading or something, and then go practice it. Have people practice it and be very specific. Here's the activity to go do. Here's how you might do that in a remote setting. If it involves other people, call up someone and have a certain kind of interaction, or even with your people at home, try it like this. So there's still, even in a self-paced or asynchronous learning, online learning that isn't live and delivered by a facilitator, there still needs to be that experiential element. But now we get into a whole other thing of how do you keep people engaged in that? And that's all about accountability.
Exactly, accountability. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and how would you do that?
What we do is, because we've created these online programs, and we are doing our best to make them experiential. So there's interactive things, there's quizzes, there's ways that people interact with the content in the online program itself. Mm-hmm. And we've looked into the research around this. People have got to engage with it rather than just read something. Yeah. Our first versions were also falling into that trap of, here, read this. No, you need to have people engage with it and it could be a pop quiz or some kind of little game that they play, or look at these 5 different things, which belong to this category or that category, and they sort these cards online. And what are the practices that are going to go into the real world? Mm-hmm. So and that's where the accountability comes in. That really needs to be done by live people. So accountability, the way we put it together is we usually have cohorts of people in organizations going through this, through a program, even if they're self-paced, everyone's on their self-paced, but we put people in a learning group or a buddy group or a buddy pair. Yes. And then we create a schedule. Week 1, chapter 1, have do these practices, have a buddy meeting. Week 2, here's these things, these practices, have a buddy meeting to discuss, because the brain also learns by having discussions. Yes. And when we talk about things, the learning center, the verbal center of the brain is right next to our memory centers, and there's connection between the two. If we talk about what we learn, then we remember it better. So we go have an experience, we talk about it with a learning group or a learning buddy, that actually solidifies the learning. Yeah. And what we found in our groups, sorry, I get excited.
I makes it stick. Exactly what you told me earlier. It just makes the learning stick, because yes. Because then you've experimented it, you've discussed it, and actually now it makes sense to you.
Yes.
So how about social learning?
Yeah. Can I just add one more element to this? So yes, if people are on their own, there's a company who said, yeah, we want this learning, and they're all on their own. There still needs to be somebody to hold account to the buddy groups. It's kind of like this. You hold accountability for people showing up to their buddy groups. Yes. The fact that they have a buddy group, because of social learning, they're more likely to do the work, because we're so much better as human beings. We're so much better at being accountable to others. Yes. Than we are being accountable to ourselves. So an in-house, let's say an in-house learning and development person, or an HR person, or even external, you guys could even do this, it's help hold accountability. Make sure you're doing this at this time, and having your learning group conversations, and structure those conversations so that the people in that conversation are having the conversation you want them to have, rather than just, hey, what's it like in your home, and things like that. So the accountability externally really helps, but the learning is happening because there's a social interaction. Social brain. This is a social brain. So much of our brain is about keeping track of relationships. Mm-hmm. And that helps us stay accountable, and helps us want to do the things that, the practices, and want to talk about it. And as we do that, that solidifies learning. A little bit of peer pressure is what's going on. A little bit of competition can help. There are many organizations who put their training together, and they'll say, oh, here's who's in your cohort. And it actually is visible who's done what. And it creates a little bit of competition. As long as that's safe and friendly and still social and nice, it really gets people ramped up. Yeah, oh my God, I'm behind, let me catch up. So that's a social aspect. Another aspect of social that works is the conversation.
Yes, yes.
It's hard to have it. I mean, you can write on your own, you could journal and think about it yourself, but it's so much better for most people to talk about it with somebody.
And do you think today, with this whole drive towards having more remote work setups, because there's a lot of businesses that were against remote setups earlier, but then after they've tried it right now, it created that level of trust that I can actually get work done as a business. My people can deliver on the projects. I can trust them to make work happen. And a lot of them are right now thinking about having hybrid remote teams, or even for the more adventurous ones to go full on remote. So we've spoke about gamification and learning for a long time. But do you feel that now virtual gamification is even going to be it's going to be needed even more today with the current setup?
It's a good question. And to be honest, I'm not certain. The gamification is about that the interactivity, playing with the concept. So having a quiz and that kind of thing, which does engage people. People like to earn points.
Yes.
People like, you know, and they like to have leaderboards, and they like to have some friendly competition with their people. So yes, I think that's important. Is it absolutely essential? I'm not sure yet. But if it keeps them engaged with other people, then definitely, because it's the engagement with other people that really is going to make all the learning happen.
Yes.
Because they're accountable to others, and they have those conversations with others, and, you know, oh, okay, I know I'm talking to somebody, so I'll definitely do my work. And in a way, that is kind of a gamification, isn't it? It's a little bit of a competition.
Yes, and it leads you back to the same concept of social learning, because so we're if we are online doing this game together, or we are competing, etc. So it's as well that relationship there is between you and me, and in that particular game or setup that we have virtually created to learn together.
Yes.
Learning through play, right?
Yeah. And if you, let's say we challenge each other, go try this new thing, whatever we're learning, 3 different ways. So you go do your 3 different ways. I try my 3 different ways. We have that sort of a little bit of adrenaline to go, okay, I've got to go do this. And then we come back and you share 3 ways you've tried this, and I've tried the 3 ways, and we share. We've now got 6 ways that this tool can be applied. Like, we're helping each other see applications.
Yeah.
So the gamification, the turning up the volume on it, and the social learning all help create more possibilities. Oh, I didn't think about trying it that way. That was amazing what you just did with that thing, Emma. You know, let me try. I'm going to go try that, because I can be as good as you.
Yeah, exactly. What would be your some tips that you would give to businesses? There are experimenting with remote work, but more from a learning neuroscience perspective.
Some tips. Sorry, what are
Tips
some
for
tips?
businesses. Yes, tips for businesses that are experimenting with remote work today, but they still want to ensure that they are delivering a good learning experience for their people. So what would be those tips?
Well, first of all, check on that safety aspect. For me, it's safety first. So are their brains calm? Are they in a state where they can actually learn? If they're really stressed, there's no sense in doing a learning, you know, some kind of whole learning, maybe small bits of learning. But if you wanted to start a whole big learning journey, it might not be the right time if everybody's really stressed out. So invest in well-being and that kind of thing first.
Yes.
So safety first, make sure the brain is in a state where it can learn. You know, in the beginning of lockdown, we were all learning new things, and that also wasn't the time. So now, as people are settled into new habits and patterns, it's a better time to start those learning journeys. So safety first, and safety throughout a learning experience, to make sure that people aren't being judged or feeling judged or evaluated before they've had a chance to play and practice. This is one of the downsides of mini trainings, is people go out and they learn, let's say back in the day when we did in-person thing, people go out and learn something, and they come back, learn coaching skills. They work with a lot of coaching skills, so I'm often coming back to that example. And then they want to try it with their direct reports. And it doesn't quite work, because they're still learning, they're still practicing, they haven't built this muscle yet. Yeah. And they try it and they feel like it doesn't work, because they're not great at it yet, so it doesn't work, and then they give up. And the people that are being practiced on will say, oh yeah, the boss has been to one of those courses. Actually, whether it's in person or remote, it doesn't matter. They've been to one, you know, let's just put our heads down for a couple of weeks and you'll forget about it. So it's something an organization can do, is to make it safe for people to practice the new skills.
Yeah.
So encourage direct reports, you know, hey, direct reports, all the leaders in this organization are going to learn new leadership skills. Give them space. So create permission, create time to play, ways to practice, and don't expect people to be perfect the day they come back from a course. That's the beginning of the journey, not the end.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
People...
Don't judge them, right? Just give them space, let them experiment, let them fail, let them learn, and let others learn from them as well. And it makes them human. I mean, whether you're learning remote, virtually, or in the usual setup that we were used to, you need to you need to be patient with yourself, and others need to be patient with you.
Yes.
Yes.
Learning is a journey, not something that happens instantaneously.
Exactly. I wish a lot of businesses would think like that. Thanks a lot, Lori, for joining us. I really appreciate sharing your experience. Next discussion actually will be about international business leadership, but from the lens of a remote CEO. So I'm very excited as well for this discussion. Until next time, and in the meantime, you can tweet us on @OneCircleHR and follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. And see you next time. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Lori.
You're welcome.